Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reign of Troy Radio. This is episode 438 coming to you on Wednesday, August 24th. It is the first of our Wednesday episodes. We're going to be coming every Wednesday this year as our game preview episodes. Next Wednesday, we will be previewing the very first game of the year against Rice. And then every Monday will be Fallout episodes. After, I guess, next Monday will be our season predictions episode. But today, we're going to talk about USC's 2022 roster and walk through the roster, get familiar with the familiar names, all the newcomers, all the numbers, all of that and more. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Reign of Troy, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Reign of Troy. Be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, wherever you can find us. We are there. You can subscribe to us right here on YouTube, where we go live 3 times a week during the season as well. As always, our email address is reignoftroy@fanside.com and our phone number 213-373-1USC. Second What's Bruin Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined along with my co-host here in the Reign of Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Derritol.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We are back a little bit later than we thought. We thought we'd be back on Tuesday. And then we talked about it last week. We went to Texas, helping a good friend of ours as they get ready to move and leave from Texas. And we couldn't leave from Texas ourselves because, all hell broke loose. It was a deluge. I can never say that word right.
Deluge?
Yeah, 6 inches of rain overnight at both airports in Dallas, and we couldn't get a flight back.
Yeah, we have a bad habit. Well, it's not our bad habit. Dallas has a bad habit of bringing the worst possible weather for us when we're there, because the last time we were there was the Great Freeze when we got stuck in the freeze, and we're staying with said friends in their house with the power out and it being freezing cold
and frozen pipes.
Yes, and that was an adventure. So it's just a Dallas thing, and that's our fault for going to Texas. No offense to all of our lovely friends and listeners who live and are from Texas. Like beautiful Austin, Texas, like buddy Sean.
Yeah, like our buddy Sean from beautiful Austin, Texas. Yeah, the good thing is we got a barbecue, we got brisket. What more can you ask for?
Is Cameron still in Frisco, or did he move? It's Cameron from Frisco because
gonna have
he
to
used
remind
to be.
Us. He's going to have to call us.
I want to say
on the retro.
Yeah, let us know, Cameron, if we got that right, that you are still in Frisco. And yeah, it's good barbecue, good friends, good place, but maybe not the best place to be when there's a downpour or a freeze or
any sort of
anything like
element.
That.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, we are back. This is going to be a jam-packed episode previewing USC's 2022 football roster. Like I mentioned in the open, a lot of interesting names, a lot of new names, a lot of guys from yesteryear, but this is such a huge roster to turn over. It's going to be hard to get into all of that, but we're going to try it here on this episode. Before we do that, we do want to give our thanks to all of you guys listening to us and giving us reviews on Apple Podcasts, as well as if you're watching us live on YouTube, be sure to like this live stream, as well as give your comments. Questions you can put in the chat, all caps question, and then we can get to those when we open up the mailbag a little bit later on in the show. But feel free to join us, comment along, and all of that. At least we got a bunch of new Apple Podcast reviews, a bunch of 5-star reviews. You want to get to them?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's let the praise flow down upon us like the rain in Dallas.
A little bit, yeah. First one comes from Miles, who says, easy 5-star podcast. This podcast offers excellent production and great knowledge of USC football. They have great chemistry, obviously in the right mix of football and pop culture mixed in. Great work. Keep it up.
Yeah, thank you, Miles. We also got one from Fred, who said, new YouTube format live is fun. Question, why do you make Michael dress as the leprechaun from your alma mater in green? Episode 437. Also, why is he cheating, hiding his face behind the pop filter with the low quality camera? Let's get some school pride going in Cardinal and Gold or Rot merch. Can't wait for the first CarCast.
That's easy. I'm trying to channel in some Wilson from Home Improvement.
You are doing some excellent Wilson, and you do look like you are in Potato Cam right now. So The move to video, our focus right now, and hopefully you guys will have to let us know. Hopefully, the audio issues that will be coming up in a couple of reviews have been addressed, but that's been our focus. So now that we hopefully have the audio dealt with, hopefully we can get Michael a new camera and get his beautiful face on here.
Yeah, beautiful speculative.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but it is funny because I'm wearing green today, so it might not come through on the camera. It looks a little gray, but it's like an army green I've got going here. So
it could be Notre Dame green.
No, it's not Notre Dame green. It's
close enough. Still green. Speaking of, you said army green. Here's Airborne Spoon. Gives us 5 stars. I've been listening to both of you for years. I'm an overseas contractor, recently retired from the U.S. Army. I've listened to you everywhere from California, New York, to my current home in Cary, North Carolina, and overseas from Iraq, Afghanistan, India, Korea, and finally from my current location of Mexico City. I really like your show because you're both extremely knowledgeable and informative, but don't attempt to be profound or exaggerate your inside connections as some podcasters do. I really like your show and I appreciate your hard work. Congratulations on getting married. And if you don't mind, I have one piece of advice on a long, successful marriage. I've been married for over 32 years, high school sweethearts. Compromise, take care, and fight on.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Airborne Spoon, for your service. Thank you for the review. What a amazing life you've led to have been to all of those places, to be living where you are now. That's really awesome, and congratulations to you on 32 years of marriage. We have made it through how many months of marriage now?
Going on 4.
May, June, July. Yeah, we're going on
a third of a year almost.
Going on 4 months of marriage, and we're still kicking, so that's exciting. And yeah, we very much appreciate the review. I really like this review because one of the things that you and I often talk about, Michael, is like, what is the tone of the show that we're going for? What is the, what are we trying to project ourselves as? And I think Airborne Spoon really hit. This is what we're trying to be: knowledgeable, passionate, but not acting like we're bigger than our britches or anything like that. So, thank you for that. Yeah. We also got, there's some great names in the reviews right here. We got Clay Trey Goat, which I enjoy. Love Rot for 5 stars. Love Rot for all their personal insight and fair takes on all things USC. I've been listening for close to 5 years and love interacting with Michael and Alicia on Twitter as well. Thank you guys for all the awesome content and making the off season and Monday through Friday go by quicker. So thank you, Clay, for that one. And
that's a good one.
Love all the longtime listeners who have come in here with the reviews.
Yeah, which leads us to SC Psycho, gave us 5 stars. Longtime religious listener, first-time reviewer. First of all, congratulations on getting married and Godspeed. On a technical note, I've been noticing some audio issues in your last couple of episodes on Apple Podcasts in the form of intermittent distracting pauses in your audio. Thought it was my phone or headset, but just listened through 2 hours of other podcasts, and everything seems fine on my end. Would love if you can troubleshoot that somehow. Otherwise, glad to have you back for the Lincoln Riley era. My seatbelts are buckled and I'm ready to fight on and beat the Owls. Let's go. Yeah, this week we have put in a fair bit of effort to try to fix those sound issues. We've made a change in our process a little bit, and hopefully are not getting those. We think we figured it out. If it continues, please do let us know. But thank you. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks to Josh in the chat has already said that there's no issue so far on the sound. We're doing something different on the podcast recording side too. So the podcast listeners who are listening should have the better audio as well. And yeah, thank you all. We hope no one went out and bought new headphones, because that was the number one feedback that we've gotten over the last couple of weeks is, I thought something was wrong with my headphones. It's like, no, it's us. It's our fault. Sorry. Yeah. And to finally end this review storm, my favorite name of all, He Hate B. 5-star review, short and sweet, great podcast for all SC football news. So thank you, He Hate B, for leaving that podcast, leaving that review on the podcast. So love this.
Was the XFL 1 too early for you?
What was it? 1 like WON or 1 like
no, like the very first iteration of the XFL. Was that too early for you? Like in 2001?
I mean, I felt if
Like, do you remember Rod Smart being He Hate Me?
Oh, I remember it. Yeah, He Hate Me. I remember like
brilliant.
I remember watching the XFL in a way that I never watched like the XFL when it came back or the American.
We went to a game.
We did go to a game, and that was very fun. But like, yeah, I feel like the XFL when it came out in 2001 was big. Like I probably wasn't that into football at the time, but I still remember watching it because my dad was watching it.
Yeah, I was a big LA Extreme fan. With what's his face? Whose name is just Tommy Maddox.
Maddox, yes.
Former UCLA Bruin. He was the quarterback at the Coliseum for the Extreme. And yeah, Rod Smart, pretty much the guy who kind of made it big. He hate me with the Vegas Outlaws, and then ultimately went on to become a Carolina Panther for a few years. So there we go. Alicia, let's get into the news before we start walking through the roster. Why don't we start with some new NIL stuff? Lots of NIL things coming around. Like left and right, there's new NIL stuff literally every day. The big stuff this week, Jordan Addison got an NIL deal with United Airlines, and Boulevard set it up. There could be potentially more deals down the line, but he tweeted a little ad of him on the tarmac at LAX in front of a United Airlines plane.
Yeah, so Keaton Slovis had a deal with United last year. It's good to see Jordan Addison getting that deal. It's good to see, with some of the chatter this summer about like, oh, he wasn't getting the NIL stuff that he wanted to. Like, it's good to see this coming through for him.
Yeah.
I didn't really buy that is like a thing, like, oh, he's unhappy or whatever. But you still want the Biletnikoff winner, the guy who came in and is looking to really raise his profile by coming to USC, getting that kind of deal. So many more, hopefully, that they will come and also get to cash in on that one.
Yeah, 100%. The other stuff, Amazon is now testing an NIL deal model with USC, the apparel being sold through Mailbag, Amazon's fashion brand. And On3 has got some reports about it saying athletes are paid to post unique links to their social media channels, will have the opportunity to earn royalties. Student athletes who opt into the program will be paid 4 to 5 figures in compensation just to post content. Open Endorse is overseeing the payments and making contact with athletes for Amazon. This, to me, seems like a no-brainer in the sense that these are going to be sort of those like deals.
Affiliate links?
Yeah, like affiliate links. When you see your favorite, content providers share Amazon links and whatnot, and they get a little kickback. That's kind of the same way it's going to work here, except it sounds like they're going to get paid up front to post the links.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, okay, that's going to work like affiliate links, and your mileage may vary on that, but the idea of them having to opt in to post the links and all that kind of stuff means they get, at least it'll be worth it for everybody. Like no one's going to sign up and then get like 2 cents or whatever. So that's exciting. It's cool that Amazon is doing this test run with USC. That's a good sign. You want USC to be the one that gets the initial bump from the traffic on that. I just wish that
I hope you say what I said.
That the apparel was better.
Yeah,
I looked at it and it's just.
Did you look at it? It's terrible.
Okay, so some of it is fine. Like it ranges from like horrendous to fine, and that's my problem. Like there was nothing on there that like as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I'm buying that. I'm going.
No.
There was like, I guess I could buy that if I wanted to buy something, but then it ranges down to like, it's like got university, and then S period California, and then ALT dot period DEP. Like it's like somebody went crazy on the shortening words. And when have you ever like, at least USC doesn't like the Southern Cal or Southern California anymore.
But like they makes sense why?
Yes, it makes sense why, and they used to use those phrasings. So like it gets, I get it why. Have you ever seen anyone do University S. California or University So. Cal? Like It's completely foreign to me, to the point where I felt like if I bought that stuff, people wouldn't know, except that it said Trojans, that it was actually USC. It's like, I don't know.
I could understand something that said SoCal on it if it didn't say University of. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
but it doesn't even say of. It's University SoCal. Like,
yeah,
it
it's
swing
weird.
and a miss on the
It's like
design.
stuff you get off of Wish.
Yes, it feels
Yeah.
very generic. I hope that maybe they go through and add stuff to things. Like, I was hoping for like it's gonna be like when Home Field dropped their
Right.
stuff, and then you get to go through and go like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I don't like that much, but like that's cool. I'm gonna get that. There was nothing. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely not the same type of vibe for the Amazon stuff. But if it's gonna help players, if it's gonna generate money for athletes, I mean, more power
for
to
it.
everybody.
Yeah.
So we will see how that goes. Last bit of news before we get to talking about the roster: Keaton Slovis has moved on to other things from USC. He has gone to Pitt, and by all accounts, he will be the starting quarterback for the Pitt Panthers when they open their season next week against, is it West Virginia?
West Virginia, who
Backyard brawl?
The backyard brawl could very well be the USC brawl, because JT Daniels looks like he's not officially, but he could still be the starter. So of the 3 former USC quarterbacks out there, Slovis has won the job. Looks like JT will probably win the job. We'll see. And then Jackson Dart's still fighting for the job. So we'll keep an eye on what those guys are up to, and we'll definitely be paying attention on that on Thursday next week to see what happens with JT and Keaton. It should be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride for those guys, tracking what happens with everybody. Jackson Dart, obviously, over at Ole Miss as well. And Jack Sears still at Boise?
Is he? I don't know. I got no idea.
I can't remember. Anyways, let's get into the roster, shall we? Shall we start talking about USC's 2022 roster? It is a big one, in that it's a hell of a lot different than what SC was doing before. This is the biggest roster takeover you've ever seen in your life, essentially. So many players have come in, so many players have left. There's the COVID season has, obviously was putting things in flux with the 1 year extra of eligibility people had, and how that was kind of forcing transfers. Now you add in Clay Helton gone, Lincoln Riley in. This is a completely different roster, so we want to take an episode to walk through the roster and get familiar with it as we get ready for a season that kicks off in about 10 days.
Yeah, this is something that I needed to do myself, just writing some USC content for the fansided.com like college football preview. This roster has changed so much.
Yeah.
And it was the kind of thing where like I'm going through the roster, and even though I'm pretty up to date with like the names, I don't know the numbers. I don't know like exact positions where everyone is at this point. So if we need to do this, then we think our listeners and viewers need to do it. So hopefully you guys get something out of this and feel more familiar with what is a very changed roster going into week 1.
Yeah, let's start with the offensive line. USC breaking in a huge offensive line that has a lot of turnover, but a lot of guys coming back at the same time. Andrew Voorhees back for his 93rd season at USC, along with Brett Nealon, Justin Dietich, Jonah Monheim, who got some starting reps last year. He is back, but they're going to have to break in a new starter at left tackle. According to a tweet from LA Times reporter Ryan Karchi, it looks like Andrew Voorhees will be at left guard, Brett Nealon starting at center, Justin Dietich at right guard, Jonah Monheim at right tackle, which leaves left tackle to Bobby Haskins, the Virginia transfer, and Cortland Ford.
Yeah, it was good to get that confirmation. I think we already knew there weren't going to be very many opportunities for somebody to break through as a starter, just because A, there's not a lot of options. B, the guys who return have good experience, and they worked well together last year. So I think the biggest question mark was, would Jonah Monheim just slot in as that right tackle? And it sounds like that is absolutely what he's done.
Right.
And then Cortland Ford and Bobby Haskins, I saw Lincoln Riley talking about that group and saying, they're comfortable playing the 6. So One of them will end up being named the starter, but I think we can expect to see all 6 of those guys play, and not be a situation where it's only those 5 and then you never see Haskins or you never see Ford. So that should be something that's interesting to watch for the first game to see who actually wins the starting job. But I also expect to see a lot of those guys involved especially because like they don't have good depth. So
Right.
maybe I know that Gino Canones has gotten a lot of good talk in sort of post practice conversations. So he's somebody that maybe has more of a role than I came in thinking about. I know Joe Bryson, the walk on, was getting a lot of run in spring, so you don't know if he's going to be involved at this point. But the options outside of those 6 are pretty. So USC is going to have to really cross their fingers and hope that that group stays healthy.
Yeah, you talk about guys with who could be depth options. For the longest time, it was Dietich and Monheim, right? Like Dietich especially was sort of that depth option for SC the last few years. Well, all of a sudden, you look at him and he's like a redshirt senior out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But this is his opportunity to finally be a starter at guard. I mean, he started last year as well, but like continue to sort of be on that trajectory to not just be the guy who was the last man in. Now that comes down to Haskins and Ford, so we're going to see how that battle kind of progresses going forward. The numbers interesting here when you look at Bobby Haskins wearing the number 70. It's a good number for a potential left tackle, I would say.
Yeah, number 70, it's good. It'll fit in well with the 57 of Justin Dietich, the 62 of Brett Nealon.
Yeah.
The what do we got? 74 for Cortland Ford, 79 for Jonah Monheim, and I'm missing one. Did I get the 5?
Voorhees
at 72. Yeah. Voorhees is the most recognizable to me at 72 for whatever, because he's been at USC in that number for a million years. So yeah, it's a lot of 70s and 50s and 60s, and we'll see how they go.
Yeah, and the thing about Voorhees, this is like him at left guard is crazy because you look at where he started on this offensive line and he started just about everywhere.
Yeah.
Left guard, he started at right tackle, he started at right guard.
He took snaps at center for a while there as a third option.
He's taking snaps at left tackle as well. So
yeah,
he sort of bounced a little bit everywhere. Let's talk about the wide receivers for the Trojans. Lots of new names here. Lots of new numbers to get to, too. A 0 with Terrell Bynum. I've talked about it before. How great would it be if SC had a receiving core, or for at least one play, you had Gary Bryant Jr., Brendan Rice, Jordan Addison, and then Mario Williams. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 out there, and those are your 4 receivers. That could be crazy.
You could go 5 and have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 with Terrell Bynum at 0.
Yeah, Terrell Bynum, the Washington transfer.
But Gary Bryant 1, Brendan Rice 2, Jordan Addison 3, and Mario Williams 4.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. SC has expect 3 positions to start in the Lincoln Riley offense. That's what they started back at Oklahoma. I did some digging into the Oklahoma depth charts. A little bit interesting, but when you try to figure out, they have 3 receivers on those depth charts, an X, Y, and a Z. X and Z, pretty simple, split ends and flankers. Back in the day, nothing too shocking there. SC has always had an X and a Z and a Y. The inside guy, the interesting thing here, you look back at 2017, kind of the peak of Oklahoma's passing offense at OU when they had Lincoln Riley as the, was that his first season, I think, in 2017?
Yeah.
And then Baker Mayfield was the quarterback. The 3 starting receivers were CeeDee Lamb at the X, Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown at the Z, and at the Y was Mark Andrews, who's currently a tight end in the NFL, which was interesting to me because I thought, looking at this, that means that I think Drake London would be the Y. If you look at like 2018 Drake London at USC, he would have been the Y in this defense or in this offense. 2019 Drake London as a freshman.
Yeah, and this is where it would have been really nice if we had been able to be at practice to sort of sort out who is playing where. I think with this group, you have to sort of look at not necessarily trying to typecast them in the 3, but sort of look at You're going to have the 3 starters, but you're probably going to have at least 5 guys in the regular rotation, if not 6. And so you look at Jordan Addison, obviously he's the first name on the team
Pencil
sheet,
him at the X, I would say.
Yeah, as they say in soccer. Mario Williams, it's just hard to imagine he won't be a starter for USC at this point, given his connection to Caleb Williams. And then you've got, I genuinely do not know who that third starter will be. It will be a surprise when we look at the first depth chart that comes out, because it could be Garrett Bryant Jr. He was a starter for USC last year.
Right.
He has production under his belt, and he's a really good player. And maybe Lincoln Riley can unlock some of his speed as a threat in this offense. But at the same time, Taj Washington, productive player. Brendan Rice, big potential coming out of Colorado.
Yeah.
You've got Kyle Ford, who, if you want to talk about like the Mark Andrews like tight endy body,
to me it's Kyle Ford. I think Kyle Ford could be that wide guy.
Yeah, exactly. Terrell Bynum from Washington could be a guy that really contributes. John Jackson III is another one of those sort of bigger body guys that they could play on the inside if they want. We know that Michael Jackson really thrived as a freshman in camp, so maybe this is the year he takes the step forward. Kyron Ware-Hudson, we haven't gotten to see anything from him because he redshirted last year. CJ Williams is the new guy coming in as the freshman, taking on the number 8. Like, we don't know what to expect from him. So, and Lincoln Riley has talked about him being very consistent and being very reliable for them. So this is a really interesting receiving core in that any combination of 4 of those names, with Jordan Addison being the only absolute lock, I would believe could be a starting lineup for USC this year.
Yeah. I mean, even when you look at Kyron Hudson and CJ Williams, 2 guys who are on the younger side, they have every much to say about this as anyone else, right? Like, you look at Brendan Rice. Brendan Rice has 3 years of eligibility left after coming over from Colorado. Only 21 catches last year, 3 touchdowns for the Buffs, but Colorado's passing offense was atrocious.
Miserably bad.
I think I could throw more yards, in that offense than what they did
You
last
could
year.
put Jerry Rice in that offense, and I don't know that he would have had more than 400 yards receiving.
No, by the way, did you know that Brendan Rice is Jerry's son?
I did not know that. But I mean, shocking
I just learned about that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see all the mixes and the combinations here. If you go with the big body inside at that Y, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Kyle Ford. If you want to go smaller, speedster guy, maybe it's Garrett Bryant Jr. I don't know. Taj Washington, someone who absolutely needs reps too. 54 catches, 602 yards, and a TD last year. Lots of guys to play around with. Let's move on to the tight ends. Lisa, your favorite position.
Yep.
This one's a little interesting because, as we mentioned with Mark Andrews, if someone is really a receiving tight end, they could be in the mix to start out wide as a wide receiver, or they could just be labeled an H-back on the upcoming depth chart. Look for them in either spot, even though I do think it'd be interesting if SC put out a depth chart that labeled them as tight ends for, SC fans' sake. Maybe?
And other coaches have done that before. They've changed their terminology when they've gotten to USC. So it's possible that they could do that.
Yeah. Who do we think starts here? Is it Malcolm Epps' job to sort of lose?
So I've been sort of penciling in Malcolm Epps just because he's got sort of seniority, and I don't trust that Josh Fowler will be healthy, and Jude Wolf is going to be injured. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't be surprised, given the new sort of offense and everything, like that Lake McCree. I would not be surprised if he just came through and was the starter. So this is a really wide open group as well, in a little bit more of a big question mark sense than the wide receiver core. It's like, well, anybody could just pop up. Like, this is who will be available. This group has a really bad injury history across the board. So I'm very curious, but Lake McCree could eat here. Malcolm Epps, number 19. I liked what I saw from him last year in terms of getting himself settled, but Lake McCree is really the guy with the ceiling that stands out of this group. If you sort of discount that Jude Wolf is injured again, and we don't know when he's going to be back. Yeah. So who knows when he'll have a chance to live up to the hype. yeah, Ethan Ray and Josh Follow, I'll believe that they will play when I see them because the injuries have been beyond. And then Sean Mahoney's the former walk on, so he might get time because this group is a little thin. But it's I don't it's like throwing a dart. Like I have no idea.
Yeah. I think for me, I just want to see Lake McCree, what Lake McCree can do. When it came out last year that Michael Trigg was transferring, that was a huge
The
blow
big
because
loss. Yeah.
everyone had kind of put their eggs in the basket of Michael Trigg at the tight end spot. But Lake McCree was really good. Only 4 games last year, 7 catches, 91 yards. And I feel like all of those catches kind of highlight real catches. So I'm excited to see what he can do for SC in the passing game. So Epps and McCree, absolutely, I think the guys to keep an eye on, and we'll see how everything else comes to fruition there. Let's move on offense and talk about the running backs. A completely new running back room for the most part. The only one that's back is Darwin Barlow. Everyone else, a whole bunch of new names. Travis Dye, the presumed starter, the transfer from Oregon, 211 carries, 1,271 yards, 16 touchdowns, 16 rushing touchdowns last year for the Ducks. Also had 46 catches, 402 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns for the Ducks last year. I think that'll play. I absolutely think that'll play. And you mix it in with the speedster Austin Jones, transfer from Stanford, and then there's Raleek Brown, who is the highly touted incoming running back as well.
Yeah, this group is going to be fun to watch because there's unknowns in terms of how will Travis Dye and Austin Jones fit in.
Yeah.
There's the unknown of how much action will Raleek Brown see. He has been probably the name I've seen the most from players and media talking about a player in terms of complimentary discussions. Raleek Brown has been just all over the place. Dude's talking about how fast he is, how electric he is. So keep an eye out for the number 14. I know that everyone, got used to watching 14 as a quarterback, but 14 as a running back is going to be really interesting just to see how much he plays. Like, I think if things go right, my ideal thing for this group would be to see Travis Dye and Austin Jones and Darwin Barlow be like a committee that will see which one takes over the role. Obviously Travis Dye is the favorite there. But against Rice, like, it would be really, really fun if USC got enough of a lead to just let Raleek Brown take the second half and just make it his own and show fans what it is that, let him have his moment like
Stephen Carr against Western Michigan.
Like Stephen Carr against Western Michigan, yeah. Or oh my gosh, why am I forgetting Keenan Kristen against Arizona? Yeah, just like have that moment and get us all excited about the young talent. That would be a lot of fun. But at the same time, this group is a little bit thin.
Yeah.
The good thing is the depth that's there is good depth. If you get down to Darwin Barlow, I don't think you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you get down to Darwin Barlow, you are talking walk-ons getting major reps, and that's worrisome. I
guess they're thin in that you want more dudes than those leading 4 because you miss Brandon Campbell, who transferred away. But at the same time, Darwin Barlow was good last year when he was in there. Like, I don't think, he's any slouch. The transfer from, was it TCU?
Yeah, TCU.
He came over.
Yeah.
62 carries, 289 yards last year and a couple of touchdowns. Like, I think he can absolutely contribute. So I think those top 4 guys you should expect to get their fair share of reps. Let's go talk about the quarterbacks. I don't think there's much time to spend here.
No.
It's going to be Caleb Williams. He's the starter. Duh. Last year at OU, he started the last 8 games, appearing in 11 games total. 21 touchdowns through the air, only 4 picks. A passer rating of 169.6, 435 yards on the ground. True dual threat guy, something USC has not had in decades, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that fits into this offense. And it should fit pretty well because this is an offense that he knows quite well over at Oklahoma. He did have some growing pains as a freshman, but for a freshman to put up 21 touchdowns and 4 picks and complete 64.5% of their passes, you take that.
I
Any day of the
mean,
week.
169.6 passer rating, sign me up.
Yep.
435 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns, sign me up.
Yep.
He has endless potential. And the thing that I think gets me the most excited about Caleb Williams, aside from the fact that he's wearing my number 13, which was my number growing up, is that everyone who is around him talks about his mindset is more like is built for the competition. Like he will not let himself not succeed. And I think that is the kind of thing, the sort of hard mindset that USC needs to have coming in this year in order to let this season play out as positively as possible, because there will be growing pains. But if you have a quarterback who's just dragging you to the finish line, then all of those little hiccups mean that much less. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing him on that front.
Yeah, I think it's another fascinating year to see what a USC quarterback can do, especially one who transfers in with so much valued hype, such as Caleb Williams. Something that SC hasn't seen. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball, though. Talk about the defensive line. A lot of moving parts here. I think this one's going to be interesting to see what all comes together. OU under Alex Grinch has started 3 guys on the defensive line, defensive end, a nose guard, and a defensive tackle. Yet I think Tuipulotu is the guy, the main dude here. He's the one that you see on billboards and whatnot. What do you make of this unit, and who stands out for you?
Yeah, Tuipulotu is the one leading the way. That the line will go as he goes. He has so much ability, and I would just love to see this Grinch offense like let him roll.
Yeah.
But he needs support. He needs help, and this is where he will be the one that leads the way. But the group as a whole needs to be so much better than they've been in the past. Nick Figueroa, we've liked him in the past. Last season felt like a step back. So I'd like to see him rebound because we know he can be better.
He's got the number 99 now?
Yeah, he moved to number 99. Like that number. It's going to be weird to see
a lot of focus on him with that number.
Yes, yeah. And then at nose guard, you've got, by all accounts, it's going to be Stanley Taufu, which good for Stanley, bad for me and my ability to pronounce his last name. We said when he arrived as a freshman that we were going to call him Stanley T. Sticking with it because I barely still know how to spell it.
Go for it.
No, like it's just I have a mental block, so there we go. But yeah, so would I feel a little bit more comfortable if someone bigger than Stanley T was that nose guard? Probably. Does USC have somebody better than him on this current roster? It doesn't necessarily look like it. So you just got to roll with what you got to go with.
You know what I want to see? I want to see Brandon Peely back. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
it's been a really long time, and basically missed the last 2 seasons. He played last year, but like limited, if I remember right, and then missed all the season before that, the COVID year in 2020. He's got so much potential, so athletic. He can play sort of all of those spots on the defensive line, but
he's got the size,
especially the size to play at the nose guard spot. So I want to see what he can do. Solomon Byrd is the other one. The other transfer I think is fascinating, coming in from Wyoming. 3.5 tackles for loss last year. All of them were sacks for the Cowboys. But in 2020, 9.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. He was limited to just 8 games last year. So what can he do? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he gets in the mix as well. Expect to see a lot of the new transfer, number 51, Solomon Byrd.
There's also, I've also seen some talk from practice that Dejon Benton has really stood out.
Yeah.
And that this may be the year that he comes through and starts to really assert himself. So, I mean, one of the things that I would really like to see, you have this group of transfers. You've got Tyrone Taleni, Earl Barkay, Sinjun Astani from San Jose State, who's actually a walk-on transfer. And then you've got like the recruits that you're sort of are waiting in the wing. You've got Dejon Benton, Kobe Pepe, Jamar Sakona. Those guys, it would be really nice if one of each of those groups was able to really grab hold of either a key backup role or maybe take over a starting role at some point, or be just big time contributors. I think that would mean a very positive thing for Sean Newis coaching, the defensive line coach, and also just what this front is trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on Sean Newis year one.
Yes.
And he coached the best defensive line arguably in college football last year in Michigan. So that's the type of guy that you want to bring in. We'll see what he can do for the Trojans in year one.
The question Sean Newis has to answer is, was that all one star player?
Yeah.
Or can he really do a big coaching job with this group?
Yeah.
That's the question.
I mean, Aiden Hutchinson was pretty good.
Yes.
So we'll
very
see.
good.
We'll see what Newis can have in store to follow that up. Let's go to the edge rushers. One of the smallest units on the team. Only 4 dudes. They got their own coach, Roy Manning. The edge rushers, Solomon Tuliaupupu. Yes, that Solomon Tuliaupupu.
Yeah.
He is an edge rusher along with Corey Foreman, Romello Height, and Devin Tompkins. This might be the group that has the most eyeballs on it because Romello Height, the incoming transfer from Auburn, War Eagle, 19 tackles, 3 tackles for loss for the Tigers last year out on the Plains. And then there's Corey Foreman, 3.5 tackles for loss last year. Someone that everyone has a ton of anticipation for, the number 1 recruit in the class of 2021. He's been injured so far in fall camp. Then there's Solomon Tuliaupupu, who's been injured since 1943. You want to see him on the roster, right? You want to see him out on the field. There's so much anticipation to get him out there. He's sort of the fan favorite because he's easy to root for, because he's had such a difficult career and difficult time staying healthy. Hopefully, you want to hope that this is his opportunity to get out there. What do you make of this group?
Romello Height better be good.
Why? Because he's wearing number 2?
Well, he's wearing number 2.
Foreman's wearing number 0.
Yeah. No. It's more just like because Solomon Tuliaupupu and Corey Foreman have missed a lot of time with injuries just this camp. Corey Foreman missed spring camp. Foreman and Tuliaupupu, I saw in tweets today, were back at practice. So that's good. They're getting, you need them as the season gets closer. But Romello, so much is rolling on Romello Height's shoulders. And, he has potential for sure, but it's not like he was, a star player at Auburn. He's coming to USC to get his opportunity. And man, if he came to USC to get the spotlight on him, the spotlight's going to be on him. He needs to come out like a wrecking ball and just dominate early because USC needs that desperately from this position. Now, ultimately, the goal will be to get Corey Foreman to be an absolute monster in this role. But I think that SC fans should come into this season with a lot of patience around Foreman. He has missed so much time this offseason that if he is, by October, I want to start thinking about where is Corey Foreman. I'm not even going to be thinking necessarily where is Corey Foreman in the first 3-4 weeks of the season, because he just needs time to get back up to speed. And I'm not going to try and put too much into expectation on him. But that means that the expectation has to transfer to somebody. And Romello Height could be a make or break player for USC this year. It's going to be fascinating to watch, because if USC doesn't have anyone in this group to rely on, I don't know what you do.
I think you get multiple, right? This is going to be a multiple defense.
Yes.
I think you got guys in the inside linebackers who could be, outside as a rush guy. One of those guys I think we're going to get to in a couple of minutes. I think you go back to the defensive line dudes, and maybe a Solomon Byrd can go outside and be an edge rusher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a Nick Figueroa can be an edge rusher. Those guys as a defensive end are already sort of setting the edge in that way, even on the line itself. So I think there's ways to get multiple and to play around with it. And I think you're going to see out of a defense like Alex Grinch's that lives and breeds multiple looks, that you're going to see so much, so many different fronts and looks anyways that there's going to be a lot of guys in and out of the lineup as it is.
You want to be doing multiple looks because you want to, though, not because you have
Sure,
to. And that's
100%.
really the question.
Yeah. And because they're looks that make sense for you defensively.
Yes.
And to see how everything, kind of fits together. We got a comment that says rumors that they're running a 3-3-5. Yeah, essentially, when you look at the depth chart that Oklahoma put together last year, that's how it was positionally.
Mm-hmm.
3 guys on the defensive line. There was, we talked about an end, a nose guard, and a defensive tackle, an edge rusher who's considered essentially a linebacker in this defense.
Yeah, it's basically the rush linebacker. I think that's even listed.
A rush linebacker.
This whole roster rundown, we took the designations from the actual roster.
Yeah.
And these guys are designated as edge.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, rush.
So they're listed as rush linebackers.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 inside linebackers, a Mike and a Will, which we'll get to in a second. And then the defensive backs have 5 positions, 2 safeties, 2 corners, and a nickel. So essentially is a 3-3-5. But I think that still leads some flexibility, because when you have that rush linebacker, if that rush linebacker plays up on the front, then it's sort of going to mirror a 4-2-5, right?
Yeah.
Like those things can sort of, give you different orientations of what you're looking at.
And certainly the guys that are in this group are more the 4-2-5 body types than a
traditional outside,
like a strong side linebacker or something like that.
Yeah, like your Keith Richards,
your Sam,
Keith Rivers. What am I saying?
Keith Richards.
Jeez,
that would have been a different defense, Michael.
Inside linebackers. Let's talk about inside linebackers. The big name to get to know, number 53, Shane Lee, the transfer from Alabama. I think we can just absolutely pencil him in as the starting middle linebacker. He was one of USC's 2 players at Pac-12 Media Day back at the end of July. And the other spot I think is up for grabs, and it's going to be interesting to see who fits it. Eric Gentry was a great player for ASU last year as a true freshman. Here he is as a sophomore wearing the number 18 for USC. Can he channel that Dion Bailey and be a productive player on defense at linebacker from SC? We'll see. Raylan Goforth has plenty of starting reps as well. Back on the roster is Taylor Katoa after a few years off of it. And then there's Chris Thompson, the Auburn transfer, who was a safety. He's converted to inside linebacker. A lot of names on this list.
Yeah, a lot of intrigue on this list. And, obviously I think Shane Lee is the most important player on the defense going in this year. The defense needs him to be the freshman All-American level and higher than he was at Alabama. Critical addition. I know that it's hard to say that USC had a more impactful transfer than getting Caleb Williams and Jordan Addison, but Shane Lee needs to be in that degree of player, because really when it comes down to it, USC hasn't had good linebacker play for too long. And
it's been a while, yeah.
And Shane Lee needs to flip that around. What I like about the battle next to Shane Lee is that, Raylan Goforth has a lot of experience. Eric Gentry has a lot of potential. Julian Simon and Tuasivi Nomura have bring their own sort of football potential to the mix, with Nomura as the Tasmanian devil, and Julian Simon is just the do it everything kind of linebacker that he was coming out of high school. Rajon Davis, another really highly rated linebacker coming out of high school. So there's some really interesting potential guys that are waiting in the wings there. And what I would hope to see is with a new coaching staff, with sort of new pecking orders, if Raylan Goforth isn't up to snub, then give Eric Gentry that chance. Give Tuasivi Nomura or Julian Simon or Rajon Davis that, or even Chris Thompson. We'll see how he transitions to linebacker, but you just want to see that. So what I would like to see is Raylan Goforth on the field because he deserves to be on the field, not because he inherited a starting role. And I'm not saying that because I think that he can't be good enough. I think that next to Shane Lee, that could be the thing that, that he needs. But
I don't know that that's going to be a thing this year. This roster, I mean, this coaching staff is not committed to the roster. We've seen that in practicality, right? Like, so many dudes are gone. Obviously, there's plenty of guys back, like Raylan Goforth, but like, I don't think anyone's going to just get handed a job just because they were the starter last year. They're going to have to really earn it. Given that this team, this coaching staff, nudged guys out and brought other transfers in, to give them opportunities, and they wouldn't have done that if they would have been truly committed to the roster as is. So I think that gives a lot of chance for Gentry to come in and sort of win his starting job and compete with Goforth. So I think you're just going to get the best of whatever you can there. The cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
I'm still fascinated to see what it ends up being because I'm a little skeptical of the Shane Lee stuff. It's been 3 years since he was that contributing player at Alabama. Not that I doubt his potential. More so, it's been a long time, and it's hard to sort of channel that thing when you have injuries and then you come back and then you get buried on the depth chart a little bit. I want to believe he's the guy.
If you were going to get buried on any depth chart,
then Alabama's the one.
Like,
right?
That's not the worst depth chart to get buried on.
100%. Yes.
So the hope is obviously Shane Lee was in a Nick Saban system, saw Nick Saban level preparation, and that he rubs off on everybody around him, even if he is slowed down by the injury stuff.
Yeah. Let's look at the secondary. The secondary last season for USC. Up and down, and in comes a completely remodeled secondary, it looks like. Kalen Bullock, of course, is back. He's the freshman All-American. He's the one that you circle, now wearing the number 7, paying homage to guys like Mark Carrier and TJ McDonald.
Love it.
I'm excited to see him back in the single digit back there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the obvious starter. At one spot, any of the spots here, presumably safety, and from there and then on out, I think it's anyone's guess. And I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, if you had to tell me to pick make an All-American pick on this defense that just sort of surprises the sort of national
How's
audience,
it not Bullock?
It's Kalen Bullock.
Yeah,
Kalen Bullock is that level of prospect. I think he's got the world ahead of him. He's not quite like Sua Cravens was when he was a freshman. He's not quite at that level, but like he reminded me the way he would make a play, like the way you could tell the contact he could make, the way he'd close down, the way he'd pursue. It was just on another level than anybody else on that defense last year.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really excited for him. Xavier Alford, the transfer from Texas who got a decent amount of playing time last year, would be my pick to be the starter next to him at safety. Obviously, Bryson Shaw has come in from Ohio State with some starting experience, although based on people I've talked to, it wasn't necessarily good starting experience. So
he was third on the Buckeyes in tackles last year.
Yeah, but
from a safety spot, maybe that's not the greatest thing.
But yeah, you also have some guy, again, like the linebacker situation where you've got some guys waiting in the wings here, where if it's not Alford, it might be fun to see someone like Zamarian Gordon make a run, Anthony Beavers make a run, Jalen Smith sort of make a run at contributing at one of those safety spots. But for now, I would lock in Kalen Bullock and Xavier Alford as the starters, and I'm very comfortable with those two. Actually, I think that's a decent enough safety starting pair to rely on this season.
Yeah, and at the corner spots, bunch of transfers in. Mekhi Blackman comes in from Colorado. From OU, you have Latrell McCutcheon.
Jacoby Covington from Washington.
Yeah, and then Domani Jackson, the top recruit in the state of California, from Mater Dei, is wearing the number 1 on defense. What would make you the corners?
Well, Mekhi Blackman is I think slightly an under the radar transfer because I don't think we're talking about him a lot, but we probably should be, because he is a bona fide starter from Colorado who should just walk in and be the starter. Like he should be the Shane Lee level of like, yep, walk in, you're the starter, no question. Next to him is really where all the questions, similar to Kalen Bullock is your starter, and then who's the next guy? It's Mekhi Blackman, and then who knows? I've heard tell of Joshua Jackson being impressive.
From two-time state champ
Narbonne, yes.
Yeah.
Sierra Wright has been talked about a ton in fall camp, and not always just in the he's being asked about a lot in fall camp, which was I think the case early on, but like he's getting name dropped by Lincoln Riley and other people more and more often. So maybe he's in the mix to be more of a contributor than I would have expected coming in this season. But there's a group here that's a little bit unpredictable. Jacoby Covington has also been praised. I've seen from Riley. So that group, it could be like a Mekhi Blackman and then one of 3 or 4 other guys if Damani Jackson decides to make a run at getting some serious playing time early in the season. Certainly late in the season, I would not be surprised if we saw Damani Jackson take over eventually, but you also don't want to rush him into a starting job before he's ready. So, and that's one of the things is USC has had to rush those Damani Jackson level guys into starting jobs immediately. It would be nice if they didn't have to do that this year, but if he's ready to play, he's ready to play. So, so far, I don't know that I've heard the kind of chatter that you would need to hear to suggest that he's ready to go, though. So probably looking at Mekhi Blackman and then Josh Jackson or Jacoby Covington or one of those other guys.
Not the end of the world to slowly bring in your blue chip that way.
It's actually ideal. Like USC, wish USC did that more often.
Right. The other thing is the nickelback spot. Is this just Max Williams' spot?
Max Williams.
Max Williams, I talked about Solomon Tulipupu being like a fan favorite because of the effort that he gives and the hope that everyone has for his potential. Max Williams is so much that guy too. A couple of ACL tears. He's a guy that the coaches just rave about. Someone who is constantly coming back quicker and quicker and quicker from injuries than expected because he just works his ass off. And someone who has such great football IQ, might not be the fastest guy out there, might not be the twitchiest, but I don't think he's lying about anything about there because he has such good awareness. He's always in the right place at the right time. And I think if you can put him at nickelback and get starting reps out of him and strong contributions, you can feel really good about the secondary.
No one at USC, and I mean no one on this roster deserves a full season of starting action more than Max Williams.
Yeah.
The stuff this kid has gone through outside of his control with injury, the way every time he's fought back ahead of schedule to get back to absolutely be in the mix. Like this kid, his just persistence and willpower is off the freaking charts to the max. I want nothing more than for him to get his opportunity, which is, it sucks too, because when he's been able to play, which has not been very often,
he's been really good.
He's been very, very, very exciting, very good. Like sort of the kind of plays that you praise Kalen Bullock for making, where it's like, yeah, he was just there. That's what Max Williams was doing.
Right.
And he just has had the worst injury luck.
Was it the Washington game that he had in 2019?
Yeah.
He had like a great sack like on third down or something?
Yeah, and he had a big, like, he blew up a bubble screen or something. Like, I don't know. My memories of him are that Washington game. And it was so promising. And I want him to be able to just have a full season uninterrupted by injury to just do his thing. And I think he will be an app. Like, if you told me right now, Max Williams will be 100% healthy the entire season, I would tell you, pencil him in for all Pac-12 honors. Like, second team at worst, all Pac-12 honors. Yeah. So
we'll see if he gets a clean bill of health the whole season. Like you said, if anyone deserves it, it's definitely him. Let's talk about the specialist to wrap this thing up in terms of the roster. Place kicker. Gone is Parker Lewis. He's no longer a Trojan. He's at Ohio State now. And Alex Stadhouse, presumably the guy, he originally put himself in the transfer portal only to come back immediately after Parker Lewis left. Dennis Lynch, I think, is someone to keep an eye on because friend of the pod, Chris Trevino, always talks about how great Dennis Lynch is. So I'm with Chris that I want to see Chris be happy and Dennis Lynch get some reps, but yeah, I think Stathouse is the guy to expect as the place kicker. The long snapper position wide open because Damon Johnson is no longer here. He was here for like 84 years, it felt like.
Yes, he was here for 84 years, and he made us not have to talk about the snapping position for 84 years, and that
The
was
last
lovely.
two, Damon Johnson and Zach Smith,
And Zach
never
Smith,
had to talk about him.
lovely, lovely, lovely. I'm gonna just assume that Jack Casasante is gonna be the guy because he's the oldest, but I have no idea, to be honest. Hopefully, we don't have to mention any of their names very often this year because that means they are doing their job, and we don't have to worry.
Yeah, and then at the punter spots, number 42.
42. What a number for a punter.
No kidding. Aiden Sleep Dalton out of Australia. Yet another Australian punter. It was supposed to be the guy whose name just completely escaped me.
He's escaping me as well too.
With an A.
Yeah.
Yes,
that guy.
Yeah, and then Aiden Sleep Dalton is the brother, I believe, of the Iowa punter from last year as well. And another kicker from Pro Kick Australia, the same place that your dude Ben Griffiths,
my man,
came from. It is the post Ben Griffiths era. How are you coping?
Poorly. I don't know. I'm not as excited about the punter as I've been over the last 3-4 years. So
even with the number 42,
I mean, Aiden Sleep Dalton, great name. 42, great number. So
Sleep Dalton for a punter is like, do you want to sleep on the punter? I don't know.
On paper, I am all aboard, but part of me suspects because he arrived late, like he's an absolutely new arrival. Part of me suspects that Will Rose.
They don't need that much practice. They're at Pro Kick Australia. They're doing this stuff all the time.
I mean, that's true. So maybe he rolls out there first game of the season and just Atticus Bertrams.
Yes,
Thank you,
Bertrams.
Ross.
Yeah.
That was the one, Atticus, memorable name. So he was the punter that is no longer coming to USC, but part of me just thinks like Will Rose is just going to step in there. And again, this is a situation where like the less we have to talk about the punter, the better. So we'll see.
Yeah, 100%. That's going to wrap it up for us talking about the roster. It is a big new roster. A lot of stuff going on, as we've mentioned before. For USC this season. A lot of changeover, a lot of guys coming in, a lot of guys moving out. So let's get to the mailbag and get to those things. We got a bunch of your questions in the chat. Alicia's been going through here in the chat over on YouTube and starring everybody that has left a question, and we'll run through these rapid fire before we wrap this thing up. Josh says, who do you think will land that left tackle spot?
Cortland Ford got more time in the spring and the fall, so I'll go with him.
All right. Ron from LA, Lower Alabama says, how many games would USC have to win to be considered a top 10 team? We're talking about top 10 at the end of the year? I don't know, 9 or 10, right? Like it depends, right?
Because depends on what everyone else does.
It depends on what everyone else does. Also, if they are a team that surges late, it could be as little as 9 games. You look at SC back in 2016. They went, 9-1 in the last 10 games or whatever it was?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of surged there with Sam Darnold and turned things around. So, yeah, I think it's probably 10 games to become a top 10 team, but could be 9 depending on if it's impressive or not. Alex says, if the Big Ten and SEC were drafting schools, would Notre Dame equal Florida State and Miami? Combined?
Combined, yes, but not Notre Dame as such a national brand. It's unique. So
the crazy thing is, in the 90s, you would have said no. Like
you would have taken Miami.
Yeah, like maybe they would have equaled each other.
Yeah,
1 for 1, but not for 1 for 2 there.
If the Big Ten and the SEC were drafting schools today, Notre Dame would be the number 1 pick, and then would Miami and then I think
Florida State would be number 2.
Yeah, but it would be a question of 2 and 3. There would be no question about number 1.
Yeah, 100%. Ross says, what's the latest on the NIL collective? Any signs USC administration changes their stance. I don't think they can, right? Like I don't think they can really change their stance. They're gonna have to be vocally tough against those things because they got to establish that there's a difference between them and the collective themselves. I think that's just a formality, right?
The more distance USC, the school, puts between itself and that collective, probably the better in terms of just plausible deniability. But
right.
We also don't know what the timetable on that collective is. They were just like the press release they put out and the article in the LA Times was just like we're thinking about doing this, not like we've done this. So
right,
yeah.
Michael Belzil comes in. Great name, by the way, Michael. Love that. What is the best Riley cap? What is the best Riley? Cap Riley or Visor Riley? Visor Riley seems OP. Yeah, it has to be Visor Riley. It's just like Visor Kiffin, right?
Yeah, I'm a Visor Riley kind of person.
Yeah, I think there's only some coaches that can pull off the visor.
Do we have a sense of what he's wearing at practice, or like do we? I don't know that I have a sense of if he's capping it or visoring it, but
I think I've seen both.
Yeah,
but I would expect.
I hope it's visor on the sideline.
Yeah. Next question. Hugo says, guys, why the Utah hype? Ohio State put 20 opt-outs in the bowl. They won a week conference. Oregon was not very good. Oregon was not very good, but they drubbed Oregon twice. And I think that if you're Utah and you're playing a team like Oregon, drubbing them twice is how you beat them. Utah did not falter after they made the move to Cam Rising and really solidified everything there at the end of September. They were a runaway freight train, and they dominated teams as they should, which is not really what you've seen from Utah before, because Utah has done this thing where they've been very good at winning close games. That team last year from Utah was just thoroughly trashing teams left and right.
Utah has a quarterback. Utah always has a good run game. Utah has a good defense. And Oregon might not be any better this year than they were last year.
This is true. Yeah. Rama says, what is the one position where injuries could really impact the team and the season win total?
Offensive line.
Yeah.
Offensive line.
I think offensive line, and then, quarterback, obviously, just by circumstance, quarterback. Yeah. But, I would say probably the lines, for sure. SC brings back 4 guys who have starting experience on the offensive line, which is a good thing. But of those dudes, like Voorhees and Nealon are the ones who have considerable experience. Diedich and Monheim have limited starting experience, sort of. So, yeah, probably the offensive line.
Yeah.
Pontrocam says, what does USC need to show you in the first 3 weeks to get you to bump up your win total prediction?
Well, beating Stanford would bump up my win total prediction because I'm factoring in a Stanford loss.
Hey, no.
I know that's
no
to come.
Spoilers.
That's to come.
Don't
Sorry.
spoil Monday's episode.
Spoiler Monday, yeah.
We need people to come back from Monday's episode.
Yeah. Really, what I need to see is the offense hit the ground running. I think that will be a big, big test because it's not enough to just go out and say like, oh, USC scored, 32, 33 points against Rice. Like I need to see like 67 points against Rice. I need to see an absolute like drubbing of Stanford on the offensive side for me to start getting really confident offensively. And then on defense, I just need the defense to be, I would like to see an aggressive defense that's capable of creating turnovers and getting to the quarterback. I don't necessarily think that the points they give up right now is going to be something that's going to change my perspective one way or another, unless it's like giving up 40 points. But if they're getting to the quarterback consistently and creating some havoc when they have the opportunities, if they get burned, I don't mind so much if it's like the kind of thing where the other team has to do something great in order to overcome the amount of pressure that they're getting. So that's sort of what I'm looking for. I just want to see some quarterbacks looking uncomfortable.
Yeah, for me it would be improvement. I think improvement week to week defensively, and if the defense comes out and they look like stalwarts and improve every week, then I think you go from start to thinking, could this be like an 8 or 9 win team that's in a transition year to could they actually win 10, 11 games?
Yeah.
I think it's tough because those first 3 games, SC will be favored by double digits in all 3 of them. I think they progressively get harder. I think that Fresno State is no pushover. I think every SC fan knows that one.
Mm-hmm.
And every SC fan knows that Stanford in week 2 is certainly no pushover. So those are 3 games that SC should absolutely win comfortably. But Stanford and Fresno State have their voodoo. So you know how those things could get. Mind you, it's a completely new team. Maybe the voodoo doesn't apply. I don't know. We'll see. Next one comes from Nick. Why have I been listening to you guys for a decade and haven't called in yet? Time really does fly. Yeah, like give us a call in to the rant line. 213-373-1872 is the phone number. And so I still got to figure out what we're going to do for the rant line going forward with the audio. I think we got to get the soundboard back online. We found the soundboard.
We did find the soundboard.
We found it.
It got lost in the move.
We moved a year ago, and we couldn't find it, but we have discovered it. So once we get that back online, we'll be able to get calls and all that stuff back in the mix.
I want the rant line to be popping because it in the last couple of years, and we totally got it. Like no blame to the audience, but like, let's go, guys. Let's have some fun now.
100%. Kings fan says, I'd like to see JJ3 get some playing time. Do I have to hope for blowouts for that to happen? I don't know. I think it could depend on what they want to do offensively. Like, we talked about the receivers, and if the wide receiver is going to be a big body guy, and if they want to get someone who could channel that Mark Andrews thing from 2017, maybe JJ3 is the best option there. Someone who could be a receiver tight end tweener. That's probably JJ3 and maybe Kyle Ford, but probably more so JJ3.
I'd love to see JJ3. I think it's more likely than not that it'll have to be blowout sort of opportunities. But you can turn those opportunities into real playing time down the way. And there's been many a season where October comes and you've been hit by some injuries and you're digging down deep into the depth chart, and you want to have like somebody capable of having, who was it? Victor, was it Victor?
Victor Blackwell?
Victor Blackwell, who had that like one game where he just like bodied dudes, and it was
the Hawaii game.
No, it was in like the middle of the season. It might be someone I'm thinking of differently too. But like there was that one year where it's just like by the middle of the season, the depth chart was just ravaged at wide receiver, and they were.
See, I think of like what's his name? Who had the great game against UCLA? DeQuan Hampton.
Yeah, DeQuan Hampton. Like again, you just got to step up when those opportunities come to you, and it would be really fun to have JJ3 put himself in a position by taking some blowout opportunities and by the end of the season becoming the kind of player that USC can turn to if they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Last couple of questions. Josh says on offense, first play of the game, does Lincoln Riley make a statement and air it out, or start conservatively and open the game with a handoff? I don't think you air it. I think you air it out at some point on the first drive, but not on the first.
I've got a cop-out answer.
Is it a play action rollout?
First play will be a read option. And it'll be up to Caleb Williams to decide if he's going to hand it off or take a matchup that he likes on the outside.
Yeah, I can't imagine a defense is going to give up that look on the very first play.
If I'm a defense playing this USC game, the first
you let SC have the 8-yard inside zone, right?
Sit back and do not get burned. That's what I would do if I were Rice.
Yeah, exactly. Josh's next question: do you think this defense is good enough to put points on the board? How many defensive points against Rice? I don't know.
I mean, okay, so here's the question. Who on this defense has proven that they're capable of creating points? I don't think anyone on this defense, with the exception of maybe Tulu Tuipulotu, if you told me he could get like a strip sack that turned into like a defensive like scoop and score situation. I think there's a lot of guys on this defense who need to prove that they can make that kind of a defensive play. And so right now, I would say I do not know. I look forward to seeing if somebody can answer that question.
If I'm going to say anyone's going to score a defensive touchdown, let's make it Max Williams.
I like it. Yes.
Pick six or a scoop and score could be
love
either
it. Love it. Yes.
Next one comes from Mahek Jasani. Hope I got that right. How many points per game do you think the D will give up this year? And if the O does its thing, do you think the D will hold down its own to get to 10 wins or better? I think you want this defense to hold teams under 20. I think if you hold anyone under 20,
You win the game.
at this day and age in college football, you are going to be good. Last year, Alabama gave up 19 points a game.
Yep.
That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do because the offenses are so high powered. That's what wins you games. I think realistically, expect this team to hold teams between 20 to 24 points, especially since if SC is going to be high powered, they're probably going to give up more points than you kind of think. And they have so much to get better, so much room to get better on defense. I think if they gave up like 23 points a game, I think that's fine. In year one under Grinch, I think it's fine.
If you sign me up for 23 points a game right now, I would be absolutely ecstatic. Like, I think that would be 100% take that. As I've said before.
Because if you pair it with 40 points on offense, there's
golden.
nine wins in there.
As I've said before, the problem is not the season average, which I would say if you're at 24 points, you're not in the worst position in the world.
Right.
The problem is how many games do you give up 12 and how many games do you give up 50?
Yeah, 100%.
Because you can end up with a 24-point average by doing things like that. And so the question of can the D hold its own to get 10 wins or better really depends on, well, which games are they holding their own in and which games are they giving up 40? Because that's the games. The games you lose are the 3 games the year that you give up 40 points because those are the ones your offense isn't going to be able to make up for. So I think it's a little bit complex to try and predict.
Yeah. Last football one before we wrap this thing up. Martin says over under on touchdowns, total defensive touchdowns this season. We want to do some over under season predictions going forward, so we might need to save this one, but probably like let's say 3.5. Like maybe over. If I put the line at 3.5, would you take the over or under?
I'd probably take the under, but
I think it's hard to predict.
I think it's hard to predict defensive touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple off-topic questions. Number one, Ross says, thoughts on my man Ricardo getting shafted by McLaren? Had to happen, man.
He hasn't been
he
good
wasn't
enough.
There. He wasn't on the pace.
And he's going to get paid heftily to exit stage right. So,
yeah. And if you had a chance to actually get Piastri, you have to go for it.
Yeah. It sucks, but Ricardo needed to not put them in that position to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had such high hopes and part of it's on McLaren. They haven't, built the greatest car, but Lando just gets so much more out of it than Danny Rick has. And I think that's a problem. And EC Smile says, have you seen House of Dragon? And if you have, what are your thoughts? I haven't seen it yet. I've just heard great things. Alicia, you've seen it. What are your thoughts?
I loved it. I got to see a screener a little while ago, and it's been difficult to not talk about it to people, to not tell people as the lead up happened. Like, absolutely watch it because the first episode is great. The first episode takes you right back into everything we loved about Game of Thrones, despite the way that it ended, like the universe, the world, the production values.
You didn't love the way it ended?
I did not love the way it ended, but like the first episode of this series, I wasn't certain that I was going to watch it until I got the opportunity to watch the screener that I did, and then once I watched it, it was like, yep, I'm all in, 100% all in on this show. I actually got a DM from JB on Twitter saying, "Are we going to get Rod on Got back?" And I would love to do a Rod on Got. There is no way in hell we can have time to do a Rod on Got, but maybe if Michael ends up, biting the bullet and actually watching the episode sooner than later, maybe we can do a little like post cardcast, like what are we looking forward to on Rot this Sunday situation. So
maybe we could do a little 5-minute thing at the end.
Yeah,
who knows? Anyways, we've gone longer than we allotted for this thing, but it was a hell of a good time.
To be fair, we
had a bunch of questions.
When we said we were going to do a roster preview, we immediately said, "Oh, we're not going to be able to fit that into an hour," and that was true. So there it is.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening as always. Thanks for listening here on YouTube. Again, if you are still watching us on YouTube, Thank you. You guys are awesome. Be sure to like the stream, like it down below wherever it is.
Give us that old thumbs up. It's great to see our live numbers. Like every time we've gone live, we've had more people in the live show. So that's really encouraging.
It's boosting our ego a bit.
Yeah, we're the subscribers on the channel are continuing to rise. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn on notifications for when we go live. Give us that thumbs up. Tell your friends and family that we're a good show. Keep leaving us reviews, because that review section at the front was wonderful and very uplifting for us as we go into a crazy college football season that's going to be, very, very busy for the two of us. So we need those little boosts of love. So we appreciate all of you very, very much, and we're really happy with all this, and hopefully we get some good feedback about the audio being fixed, and we can just roll forward with this was our training camp. This was our sort of thing, and we're going to be all good to go once the season starts. Although when the season starts, it'll be a little bit of an interesting week for me.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll address that when we come to it.
Okay, couple of quick things. Our next live show is on Monday. Monday at 9. What am I talking about? Monday at 5 p.m. as always.
And this will be the schedule for the rest of the fall. Monday, Wednesday, 5 p.m.
Yes, Monday, Wednesday, 5 p.m. And then we'll be live probably, we got to figure it out, like 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, after each game for CarCast. Also, this will not be a live episode, but if you listen to us over on Apple Podcasts and all that, there will be another episode that should drop about Friday or so, with a roundtable with some of our friends. You may know them. You may not. You probably know them. So look for that over on all the other podcast feeds. That will not be video. That'll just be traditional podcast. But we'll be back for you on YouTube, 5 p.m. on Monday. Until then, we will see ya. See ya.
See ya.
See ya. Thanks for watching.